Hello everybody. I'm sure most of you already know, but I'm Sophie. I will be your teacher for biology. And and I will try to keep this class going as smoothly as possible, but this time being my first time actually teaching to a class, please try to remain flexible for me. And so some expectations for class. My camera policy, I don't really care if you don't have your camera on, but try to keep it on if possible because it's just so much easier and it's much like a class. So yeah, just try to keep your camera on if possible, just so that I know that you're there and paying attention. And okay, so it seems that most people in the chat answered that they aren't that familiar with biology, and that's kind of what I expected. No worries there. This class is meant for beginners, so I will try to keep it at that level. Yeah, I see so many more faces. Thanks for being there. And so first things first, did the email I sent to your parents yesterday help? Like, did it help you like prepare for class? Just like give me a thumbs up or say it out loud. Okay, great. I will. So in that case, do you guys think it will be helpful if I sent an email out, kind of like a newsletter every week, so you can expect what's to come? Again, just put up a thumbs up on your screen or just say it. Okay, great. And also, yeah, it seems like most of you are there, but if you actually talk to me, this class will go a lot faster, so just keep that in mind. And so, okay, so yeah, basically that's it. We're gonna get started with today's class. Just a sec. Sorry guys, this is taking a little while, but just hang in there. Okay, so today we will be learning about cell structure. And in my opinion, this is one of the most important lessons as a biology student that you can learn because, well, yeah, biology is like the study of life and everything that's alive is basically made out of cells. And so when I say cell structure, I just mean like what's inside a cell. And so, yeah, just it's not that confusing if you think about it. And so today's learning targets are that students will be able to know if something will be considered alive. That is, how do you know if you look at an animal or like a plant or anything, how do you know if it's alive? Students will be able to identify the internal structures of plant and animal cells, like what's inside a plant and animal cell, and differentiate between plant and animal cells, because yes, there are differences because, well, you might have seen plants and animals are very different. Okay, so first things first, what even is a living thing? So for something to be considered alive, it must have the 8 characteristics of life. So if it is missing even one of these 8 requirements, it is not alive. So the requirements are the ability to reproduce or to basically make babies, like how a dog can have puppies, so it is alive. It has genetic material like DNA or RNA. And so what genetic material is, it's basically the instructions for building your body. So obviously if something cannot build its own body, it's not alive. Thirdly, it can react to or respond to changes in its environment, such as like how a lizard might cool down, or such as how a lizard is like cold-blooded, so it can react to temperatures in its environment. It needs materials for energy, such as how we eat food to keep going and to like stay alive. It has one or more cells, and that's what we're going to focus on today. And a fancier or a more scientific way to think about this is that if it has one cell, it's prokaryotic, and if it has more cells, it's eukaryotic, but that's just like a fancy science word. And number 6, it maintains homeostasis or a stable internal environment. So again, going back to like the example of humans, which we obviously know are alive, we can maintain a stable internal temperature, which I believe is around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, so that we kind of don't freeze to death. And number 8, it can evolve, which is like it can change over a period of time. And lastly, it grows and develops, such as referring back to a human again, we grow throughout our lives, and basically, yeah. And so to practice using these 8 requirements, so my question is a puffin alive? So if you guys didn't already know, a puffin is like this little seabird. They're pretty common in like the north, like near the ocean. And so for each characteristics, I want one of you to raise your hand or just straight up talk to me and say whether a puffin meets one of these criteria. So starting off, can a puffin have babies or like reproduce? Yeah, wait, I don't think I can see your names.
Yes.
Okay, and sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, but and Yin? Okay, but yeah, anyways, a puffin can reproduce. It lays eggs, which we all know because it is a bird. And so it lays eggs and chicks come out of that, and then so that's reproduction. And does a puffin have genetic material, which are like instructions for building its body?
Yes.
Yes, again. So yes, a puffin does have genetic material. And I probably should have mentioned this before, but if a living thing has cells, it most definitely will always have genetic material because all cells have genetic material. So number 5 and number 2 are kind of related to each other. So just kind of know that. And so can a puffin react to or respond to changes in its environment?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct. So yeah, so a puffin, like some birds, they migrate to escape colder weathers, and a puffin will do that. So yes, that is an example of reacting to an environmental change. And fourthly, does a puffin eat or needs materials for energy?
Yes.
Yes, a puffin eats fish for energy. And number 5, I kind of already gave this one away, but a puffin is made out of cells. Basically, all animals and plants are made out of cells. So yeah, a puffin does have more cells. Is a eukaryotic animal. And number 6, is a puffin capable of maintaining homeostasis, which is kind of like, can a puffin maintain a stable internal environment?
Yes.
Yeah, this one's actually a little trickier, but I'm quite impressed because it has some pretty big words. But yes, a puffin can maintain its stable internal temperature like all birds do because birds are warm-blooded like us. And number 7, this one's also slightly trickier because you might not have seen this, but can a puffin evolve?
Yes.
Correct again. So a puffin actually evolved to its beak. You might have seen it's kind of a funny shape. It's like really wide, and it just wasn't created like that. It was created. The puffin had that beak because throughout time, puffins with bigger beaks could catch more food, and so that's how more and more puffins got bigger beaks. And that is an example of evolution, but we will touch on that in a later class. And lastly, can a puffin grow throughout its life?
Oh, yes.
Yes. So obviously, so a puffin obviously starts out as an egg, then it goes into a chick, and kind of follows the same life cycle as all birds. So yes. So based on all of these 8 criteria, because a puffin has all 8 of these, is a puffin alive?
Yes.
Yes, a puffin is alive because it has all, or it meets all of the 8 requirements of life. Great job, everyone. And so a more scientific way, again, using more complicated language, to think about if something is living or not living is to think about it as biotic or abiotic. Now, who can tell me what biotic means just by thinking about biology and biotic and what the relationship?
Alive.
Yes, biology is the study of life. So biotic means that something is living. And so something is biotic or living if it is A, living, once lived, or it is made by a living thing. And so going back to our puffin example, a live puffin you might see at the aquarium or a zoo or maybe out in the wild. It's alive, it's living and well. If you see a dead puffin, it is alive, it is still biotic because it once lived. And a puffin egg is living because it was made by a living thing or that parent puffin. And so on the flip side, abiotic, who can guess what abiotic means just by looking at it?
It means that
Like
something
a
is like a
rock
not living.
Like
It's not.
Yes.
It's never living.
Yes, abiotic means never or not living. And like I said
Water.
before, if something is abiotic,
or
it
stone.
is missing one of the 8 requirements above. So like maybe say a rock is not living because it has none of the 8 requirements above. But that's kind of like our a little intro to what biology is about. And in the following weeks, all of our classes will touch on or like talk about one or more of these 8 requirements. So these are very important to know about. But good job, everyone. Okay, and so today, like I said in our newsletter, we will be taking notes on cell structure. And so for this, you'll need it's kind of like what you do in school. You'll need a paper and pencil. And I will be using colors. So if you have those, please get those out. And I'll give you guys about, let's say 3 minutes to do that. So get out a piece of paper, some pens, or a pencil, and just basically anything you use that you like to use to draw or write. And I'll give you guys until 7:18 to do that.
What are we doing? Because I kind of didn't hear.
Oh yeah, right now, it's just like a little preparation for what we're about to do next. We're gonna be taking some notes, so if you want to get out a piece of paper or a pencil and anything else you might need, that would be great. Okay, so has everybody got what they needed?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry for the wait. I had to deal with some problems. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull up a picture and I'll kind of explain through the picture and just kind of follow along and write down what I say. Hold on, I'll share another screen. Okay, can everybody see that, or would you guys like me to try and make it bigger?
They can hear.
Sorry, what was that?
那个
Sorry guys, I'll try to make it bigger, but yeah. Sorry guys, this is taking a little long, but thanks for being patient. Okay, yeah, well, I can't seem to get this to work. That's kind of on me. I know this is kind of lame and I made you guys wait for a really long time, but I'll try to explain what's on the screen as best as I can. And so yeah, on the screen, you can see it's a picture of kind of an animal and a plant cell combined. Okay, yeah, if people could annotate the screen, that would also be good because it's just kind of distracting. But yeah, so wait, hold on. Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, sorry, never mind. But yeah, so on the top is an animal cell, and on the bottom is a plant cell, and these are actually a cross section of what it's like. And so yeah, I see somebody's already labeled them, but good job anyways. And so we're gonna start with what's probably the most important of the cell, and that is the nucleus, which is can you guys see like my
Yeah, I can see it.
yeah. So it's kind of hovering over this like purple blob. And so this is the nucleus. It contains DNA, which I explained earlier is genetic material. And so what's so important about the nucleus is that it's essentially like the brain of the cell. And by that, I mean it controls everything about the cell. It has all the instructions needed to like build a cell, to carry out its functions. So yeah, it's kind of like a brain. And so I probably should have mentioned this before, but a cell is a system of many organelles. And can anyone guess what organelles means?
I think it means like very tiny organs, like of a cell, like tiny stuff that works in the cell like an organ.
Yes, that is basically what an organelle is. So yes, it kind of has the word organs in it. So you might hear me like comparing the organelles in a cell to our human organs. Like the nucleus is kind of like the brain of a cell, and kind of yeah. So we'll keep on going. And so I explained the nucleus over here. And so next, what's probably most important is what's surrounding this cell, which is this red line that runs all over the cell. And this is the cell membrane. And so the cell membrane is what protects the cell. And that's why it's so important. It's kind of like our skin. It protects us against the harsh outside elements. And the cell membrane also controls how molecules get in and out. And it also gives the cell its shape and structure. Now, a difference you might notice is that plant cells have this extra layer around them. And so what this extra layer is called a cell wall. And only plant cells have this, animal cells do not have it. Remember that because that is very important. And the cell wall is kind of like another layer of protection for a plant. So yeah, it's just another layer of protection and it's a lot harder than the cell membrane. So, and basically, yeah. And also you might not be able to see it, but all of these organelles also have a membrane because like I said, the cell membrane kind of wraps around the cell and the organelles and gives it its shape and structure. Okay, so moving on, we have this giant blue thingy. And so both plant and animal cells have this structure, but it differs, but the shape of the structure differs between the two. And so what this blue blob is called a vacuole. And so the vacuole basically stores water for plant cells. And this is actually not to scale because in a real plant cell, the vacuole is huge. It basically covers the entire cell. It basically like squishes all these other organelles to the side. And so you won't even be able to see it. Most of a plant cell is just the vacuole, but just for demonstration purposes, I decreased the size of it. And so the reason why the vacuole is so large is because water, it has pressure. And so the water pressure, it pushes outwards and gives and the vacuole is also partly responsible for giving the plant its shape. And so that's the reason why when you go out on vacation or something, and when you come back, your plants all look kind of sad and drooped over, it's because all the water in their vacuoles is used up. And so without any water pressure to push outwards and give the plant cell its shape, it kind of shrivels up like a raisin. And so that's why your plants always look so like depressed after you leave them alone without water for a long time. And so moving on, we have another structure that is very important. It is the mitochondria. Now, how many of you have heard the phrase before that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell? There might not be a lot because this is a kind of like a biology term, but anyways, this term is like pretty like what it's pretty accurate to what the mitochondria does. And so what the mitochondria actually does is that it converts carbohydrates or sugars into usable energy for the cell. So yes, the mitochondria does create power for the cell. And the structure, both plant and animal cells have it. So as you can see in the picture. And so moving on, we have these green blobs, and these structures are very important to plants and plants only. They are also what gives the plant its color, and these are called chloroplasts. And how many of you have heard about chloroplasts? Okay, so some of you. And so like I said before, the chloroplasts, they're green, and they give the plant its color. That's why most, if not all, plants are green. It's because all of them have chloroplasts. And what the chloroplasts do is very important for plants to survive, is that they convert or turn light energy, or usually from the sun, but basically any light energy, into usable foods, like food for the plant. And usually that's in the form of carbohydrates, like glucose, which is just another fancy word for sugar. And some of you might have heard of glucose in your foods, but just remember it's another fancy word for sugar. And again, all plants have this. It is very important. So yeah, just remember that chloroplasts are specific only to plants. And so our last structure that we will go through in the cell is the protein system. And so this system is actually made out of two parts. We have our ribosomes, which are these pink little dots, and also these wire, it's kind of like a web, and that is the cytoskeleton. And so the ribosomes are kind of like factories in a cell in the way that they produce proteins, which are like kind of like building blocks for the cell. Oh yeah, I'll try to talk a little slower. I know I'm kind of rushing through this, but yeah, so what the ribosomes do is that so the ribosomes are kind of like factories, like I said before. And so you can kind of think of proteins as like building blocks or like Legos. They help repair the cell or help the cell grow. And so the ribosomes help create these like Legos in the cell. And so that's what the ribosomes do. And so the cell cytoskeleton, which I said are like this web in the cell. It's basically like this network, or like it's kind of like a road system that in a way that they allow organelles to move in the cell. So all of these organelles, you might notice they all have part of the cytoskeleton connected to them. And that's because in the cell, even though like you don't really see it, all of these organs, they need to move around to remove like waste products and stuff. And so the cytoskeleton helps move around these organelles. And so, yeah, that's basically everything I have on cell structure. If you guys want me to, I'll go back and add what I said onto these notes. But for now, I only have this picture, which is kind of lame, but I'll fix that. And does anybody else still need this picture for reference? Okay, well, it seems like most people are done. And just a quick reminder that not every class will be taking notes, because I know that I don't really like notes. And I think probably most of you don't like me talking really quickly, and it's kind of hard to follow along as well. So the next classes will probably have some like funner activities. Those are to be determined, but just to let you know that not all classes will be just taking notes. But yeah, I'll stop sharing because it seems most people are done. Okay, and to put this, what we just talked about into practice, I have a real life example, and I will share that with you shortly. Okay, so these are actually real cells. They are found in nature. The first one is our human cheek cells, which is like the cells from like the inside of a human's mouth. And the second are Alodia leaf cells. And Alodia is like this water plant that you can usually find in ponds. And so that's what these two pictures are about. And so can anybody identify or like see any structures that you can like easily point out? Like the nucleus, maybe? I think that is pretty obvious in the human cells.
The human cheek cell has a core.
Yes, that is correct, but we use the word nucleus instead of core, but it's the right idea. And so the nucleus, you can easily see it is right here. It's like this little dot in the middle of them. And so all of these cells have a nucleus. That is a great observation. And what else can you notice? Like, can you see what's surrounding them?
The leaf has chlorophyll, which is like the chloroplast, basically. I can see that because it's green.
Yes, that is another good observation. However, we are not talking about the plant cells yet, but that is a good observation nonetheless. For now, we're just going to focus on the human cells.
In the human cheek cells, I can kind of see like little blue dots everywhere. That might be like all the other little things other than the nucleus.
Yes, those are actually the other organelles. from this scale though, you can't really see what organelles they are, just know that they are there. Now, can anybody tell me, like, even though it's not too visible, do you guys think there is a cell membrane surrounding these human cells?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because if there wasn't a cell membrane, basically the cell would spill out and it wouldn't really have a shape. It would just be this blob. But yeah, that's really great.
Has the cells been colored or dyed so that we can see them?
Yes, because that's a really good point, because in real life, these cells actually don't have any color. The nucleus, you can't see it. Basically, nothing is visible. You just know that it's there. But in order for us to see it, it has been dyed or injected, or it has color put into it so we can see what's in the structures. And that's the same for the Elodia leaf plant as well, though I'm not entirely sure if it's a different dye because it was already green to begin with, but I know for sure that the human cells have been dyed. Okay, and also another thing I kind of forgot to mention is that a cell isn't just empty space, it also has like this jelly in between it, like inside it, and that's called the cytoplasm. And so the cytoplasm doesn't really have a big function like the other structures I talked about. It's kind of just like a filling, like kind of a filling in a pie. That's kind of what it's like. But yeah, all cells, all plant and animal cells have this. So just know that even though you can't really see it, it's there. Okay, and moving on to the plant cells. I think it was Arini. Correct me if I said your name wrong, but one of you said that you can see the chloroplast because the plant is green, and you are correct. There, if you carefully look, there are all of these little green dots, and those are the chloroplasts. Okay, now can anybody see the nucleus? This is in just one of the cells, and it's kind of small and hard to see, but can you guys just tell me where the general direction is? I'll give you guys a hint. It's somewhere around the bottom part. Okay, well, since nobody has really stepped up, and it's kind of hard to see, but the nucleus of the cell is here. If I don't know if you guys could see that, but it's right here. And like I said before, in a real Elodia plant, you won't actually be able to see the nucleus because it is clear, but these have probably been dyed as well. And so yeah, that's the nucleus right here. Now, another thing about plant cells is that, as I said before, the plant cells, most of them actually, you won't be able to see much of the organelles. This is the special, this is an exception, because most of the time that huge vacuole is squishing all of the organelles to the sides of the cell. So actually, even though you can't see it, most of these cells are just the vacuole. Most of the cells you see here are, you can only see the vacuoles of the cells because they are just that large. So here, even though it's not too clearly defined, this here is like a vacuole, and this here is also the entire vacuole. And obviously surrounding each of the cells is the cell membrane and the cell wall, but the cell membrane and cell wall are kind of squished together. So it looks like it's just one layer. Okay, so that brings us to our third learning target of the day, and that is which cellular structures do plant and animal cells have in common, and which structures are specific to plants or animals. And so basically, what structures do they have in common? And are there any structures that only plants have, or are there any that only animals have?
Both of them have a nucleus, but only plants have a chloroplast.
Yes. So yes, that is a very good answer. Both animal and plant cells have a nucleus because, like I said from the very beginning of class, all cells have a nucleus so that they can basically they have a brain. But yes, only plants have chloroplasts because only plants need to use the sunlight for food. And there is one more structure that is only for plant cells.
Both
Can
have
anybody figure that out?
nucleus.
Sorry, what was that?
I think that only plant cells have the cell wall, but both cells have a cell membrane.
Yes, that is another really good answer. Yes, so only plant cells have a cell wall for that extra support, but animal cells, they only have a cell membrane. And yes, that is basically all of the structures. And so yes, so you actually won't need to know too much about the structures between animals and plant cells when you look at them like this. Just know what structures are different to them. For plants, it's the chloroplast and the cell wall. So if you can remember that, then you can basically see the differences, and they're pretty easy to see. Okay, well, that is what I have for today's class. It was really nice seeing all of you here, and I will hopefully see most of you next week. And again, pleasure meeting all of you today, and yeah, have a nice week.